All right. Well, as you can see from the title, not very happy about the Saints right now. The Saints suck. There's no ifs, ands, or buts around that. There's no question of it. The Saints are the Falcons falconing away from being 0-3. And it's not a talent issue. They have enough talented wide receivers. They have enough talented running backs, AK. They have a very talented defense. They legitimately have one of the better, if not the best, defense in the league right now. Like, legitimately. And that's without a fucking pass rush. Their pass rush is non existent, and yet the defense is still excellent. Especially when healthy, which we haven't even fully seen yet. But they're poorly coached. They're unorganized. They are lacking in leadership. They are lacking in passion. They are lacking in belief, which we'll get into more here in a second specifically. And they're lacking at the quarterback, and that's really where it is. They're a hot quarter, and the Falcons falconing away from being 0-3, and they should be 3-0. They have been clearly and obviously the best team on the field on paper, and even when watching the game, taking out self-inflicted mistakes through 3 games. But the self-inflicted mistakes are killing them. Poor reads from the quarterback, poor timing, not being able to make adjustments at the line, not understanding blitzes, not hitting open wide receivers. The coaches do not have a disciplined roster. They clearly do not have control of this roster at all, and that is in all phases. They are messing up on special teams. They're messing up on it's somewhat on defense, less on defense. That's the best unit on the team, but even there, failing to close plays. Cam Jordan, his production is actually in production, meaning media, not on the field. He has not existed through 3 games. Um, but this really comes down to me because they're just not a good team, and they should be. This comes down to me. Um, what I saw on the field against the Panthers was, as that game went on, a team that knew they weren't very good. You could see it in the energy. You could see it in the defensive players. Like, guys are still playing with pride because they don't want to be the one that gets burned. But you can see it in the way they don't react to bad plays, the way they don't react on the sideline. You can see it in the post game. Even some of the comments Cam Jordan made about, I'll leave doubting Jameis up to you guys. I'm going to control what I can control. That is as close as someone like Cam Jordan gets to throwing the quarterback completely under the bus. And it's not. And let's be clear here. It's not just the quarterback. Da, you know, their whole mantra. We're gonna leave the draft out of it because I actually think they did well there this year. But their whole mantra for this whole offseason was Sean's gone, but nothing's gonna change. Well, here's the problem. The Saints had a all-time draft in 2017 that turned the franchise around, reinvigorated them. Had a miracle, literally miracle fluke loss that potentially kept them out of a Super Bowl, but definitely kept them out of the NFC Championship game. Going the next year, the NFL literally just decided the rule book doesn't count, and that's the only reason they didn't make and win their second Super Bowl. Going to the next year, Drew Brees is beaten to hell physically. He's just toast. Michael Thomas gets hurt, and the season ends in failure once again because by the end of the year they were extra crispy cooked. Going to the year after that, Jameis Winston, or sorry, Drew. It's Drew's last year. He's even more physically cooked than the year before. Shouldn't have come back. Decided to, whether that was to keep Brady from taking his spot or not doesn't matter. Terrible underperforming year. Next year after that, tons of injuries, but offense was a joke. The injuries were certainly a part of that, but the offense was a joke. So let's kind of look at this here. You have 17, they're rising. 18 should have been the peak. Should have been there. Should have won the Super Bowl. The NFL decided that. 19, some factors outside of their control, injuries, some bad decisions, but a bad year. But that downward trajectory starts, and then you get to 20, and they're just underperforming and not good and not making adjustments to have the realistic understanding and view of where their problems are. In that year, it was talent, not getting a quarterback, not having any type of succession plan in place. You get to 21, still no young quarterback, no developmental prospect, no acknowledgement of, hey, we have a good roster. If we get a young talented guy here, we could extend this window. Then you get to this year, continue that fucking trend. And while they have rebuilt this roster from a talent perspective on the offense, the inability to properly scout and understand where they are good, where they are strong, what is good, what is not, and understanding that this is not a team that was on the ascent. This was not an ascending team where you needed to keep everything going, don't mess anything up. This was a descending team. You had already peaked. You're on the downward trend. You need to bring in new blood to reinvigorate the team. Bring in new passion. Bring in new energy. Bring in new culture. Pump them up. Bring in, accelerate, re-accelerate this team. And they didn't do that. They rested on their laurels. They stayed true to what they are. Kept all of their guys. Continuity. It's only 3 weeks. But through 3 weeks, they are poorly coached. They are poorly managed. They are undisciplined. They are completely unhinged. They don't have passion. You let a lot of your team leaders go. This doesn't get talked about enough. Not only is Drew out of the building, Teron Armstead, who was one of the main leaders on offense, gone. Sean Payton, who was the leader of the locker room, gone. Clearly, while people might like and respect DA, he clearly does not command the room the way that Sean did. You can see it. And they don't have to be the same. But you have to get, there are many roads to the same destination, but you still actually have to get to the fucking destination. They're not getting there. Like DA, right? It's a long season. Things could turn around. But right now, unable to make the right calls, unable to get his team to play disciplined football, unable to understand the reality that you have a quarterback with a fractured back who is inconsistent and inaccurate when healthy and playing well, and now has a fractured back and is inconsistent and inaccurate, is apparently incapable of making reads at the line. And if your response to that is, well, maybe Pete's not letting him, then we have an even bigger problem. Because if your offensive coordinator is not allowing your quarterback to do part of the job of a quarterback, it tells you everything you need to know about that quarterback, that they're not the fucking guy. Jameis is not getting rid of the ball. He's not making good decisions. He's not throwing accurate passes. He had a touchdown to Callaway today that was it wasn't even to Callaway. It was in triple coverage. It should have been an interception, and Callaway intercepted the interception. We have interception-inception. We have God's plan, the sequel. It's not good. It's just not good. It's week 3. They're 1-2. You win next week, you're 2-2. Can you turn the season around? Absolutely. Is it doom and gloom? Not yet. But let's have a realistic conversation about where this team is. Right now, it's a bad football team with bad coaching, bad culture, bad quarterback play. That's where they are. And all of those things, by the way, are trending downward. They're trending worse because you're having injuries. Jarvis and Mike are both banged up. We'll see how they are going into next week. But both banged up right now, left the game hurt. The secondary is banged up. All that amazing depth they had, gone now. Most of it is gone. It is rapidly falling away. PJ Williams reminding everybody why he was available basically for the minimum over the last 3 years. Yes, he makes some plays, but if he's on the field consistently, he's going to get burned. That long touchdown was on him. Honey Badger, I wasn't a huge fan of signing him before we signed him, and guess what? Maybe that's just because I didn't go to LSU and I don't have the hometown vibes, and I love the fucking story. But you know what? He's not better than Marcus Williams. He's not close to as good as Marcus Williams. And you could have got Honey Badger plus Marcus Williams instead of having Marcus May. And we're not even going to get into that. Because this game wasn't lost because of the defense. Let's just be really clear on that. Like, the pass rush is still a joke, and it's embarrassing. Davenport's at least making some plays. No one else is. Cam doesn't exist. Apparently, he needs to take he's got to wait until week 15 and the season's basically over to come in and get some garbage time stats towards the end of the season. Apparently, he's at that phase of his career. But, let's just be realistic about where this team is. The problem is coaching. first and foremost, the problem is coaching. There is no accountability. And I alluded to this earlier, but I'm going to say it emphatically now. The players know. They don't always say it, but there's a lot of vets on this team. There's some vets that have done some things and won some stuff in this league. The players always know. The players know when the culture is good. They know when accountability is high. They know when expectations are there. They know, especially some of these players who've been there on this team, they know. And right now, you can see them going, oh, this ain't it. This is getting worse. This offense is a joke. This dude's missing wide open people all game, throwing bad interceptions. And some of them, yeah, the last play, it's an arm punt. I get it. It's 17 seconds left on the clock. Is what it is. I'm not going to kill him for that. But the Callaway touchdown should have been an interception. He had 3 other throws this game that should have been interceptions that were dropped. He's missing wide open players. He had 2 touchdowns in the red zone that were gimme plays. A good quarterback hits AK on that ball that he overthrew by 5 yards. Just all you had to do is float it in front of him so he can run under it and grab it. Overthrew it too far. Had Jarvis Landry wide open, overthrows him. That's 14 points that got taken off the board. And it actually is 14 points because you had a missed field goal and then a blocked field goal out of those drives. It's not acceptable. It's not good. And the players on the field can see it. And if the coaches cannot have him, Jameis needs to be held accountable. Like, okay, he's hurt. Great. We're going to sit you down for a week. We're going to let you rehab. We're going to let you get right. Because it's either the injury is making you play like shit or you suck. There is no in between. It is either A or B. So until we can find out whether it's A or B when you're healthy again, we're going to try playing Andy because he can't play worse than this. Maybe he plays just as bad, although he'll play just as bad differently. But he can't play worse than this. And that's where we're at. So next week is a very interesting game because the Saints could use this as a get-right game. It could be something to galvanize the team. They play better. They make better decisions. They start getting on the same page. It starts to click. They start rebuilding that culture, and they can go on a run. Or the Vikings curb stomp them in London. This team is 1-3. Is a crazy sequence of events in Atlanta away from being 0-4. The locker room begins to implode, and this gets like 2014 bad real fucking fast. Except in 2014, you still had prime Drew Brees and Sean Payton, so they managed to win 7 games when they should have won 2. Maybe 3. That was like a 3-win team. But they had Sean Payton and prime Drew Brees, so they won 7. That's where we're at. It's going to be very interesting. Let's see.